I want to ask you about the elephant in the room, which is a giraffe. So a lot of your books are centered around giraffes. Why? Why the giraffe?
Why the giraffe? The giraffe is the only animal that evolved to become more vulnerable. Yep, that face, that's why I do this. So I love it. No, that's a great, so every animal, the neck is, there's predators and there's prey. The predators eat the prey. And the way that the way every animal does kill its prey is through asphyxiation. So most cases that's biting the neck and stopping the breathing. So the neck is the most vulnerable place. So whether you're a tortoise and you can pull the head inside the shell, you're a porcupine and you have quills, you're a reptile, one of the many toads that secretes poison on the back of their neck, all the spotted animals, all the ones that have camouflage so you can't see the neck, and when they're in groups you can't tell where one animal ends and where another one starts. Some can burrow underground so you can't get to them, some can climb trees so you can't find the neck. The giraffe has this giant 6-foot neck. So as a result, it's more vulnerable than any other animal. But what's the trade-off? The trade-off is the giraffe can see what others can't, and it can reach what others won't. And who would like that in their business? So as I looked into the giraffe, there's all kinds of cool things. The fur is a pattern like fingerprints, no two are the same. You have 14 lessons in the Be the Giraffe book, 14 lessons which are super cool things, none of which you knew. Maybe you knew 1, 2 if you're, 3 if you're a zoology major. But there's a lot of cool things about giraffes in there, and then so the 14 lessons, and then how do you take those lessons, apply them to your personal life to get more, and then how do you apply them in business? And so this thing came to me as a vision of the giraffe. I started using it as a logo 7, 8 years ago, and I have just continued to go deeper and deeper into it, and my wife has given me things where you go meet with the zookeeper and hang out with the giraffes. I have not ridden one, that wouldn't be cool for the giraffe. But there's just so many cool things about that, being more vulnerable. That is the key to everything, trying things you wouldn't, the lessons of breaking free from the herd and avoiding the masses and the asses and surviving the drop. And there's so many cool things in there, the way they feed. When you read the Feed Differently chapter, that is the one that will change your life with your clients, I promise you. Because there is a super unique relationship between the giraffe and its food source that no other animals have anywhere in the world. And you should strive to do that. You want to strive to become so uniquely invaluable to your client in a way that no one else is. And if you are, you're good. How to be so uniquely invaluable to your client, whoever that is, solving whatever problem that is. If you can be that uniquely invaluable person, product, service, do that. And so that's doing the things other people wouldn't do, whether it's giving the $100 or the $1,000 or whatever that gift is, or going the extra mile. What's that thing? And I backed into that in my career where I was in financial services. All financial service products are commodities. Insurance, investments, legal, they're all the same. But how do I sell more than everybody else? And it was because I always did something else for my clients. So I would solve some other problem, and then they're like, oh, I'll just give you the commodity business. So you do something that's worth $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, and then they give you something that's worth 20 times that. And so,
and you're great at that. So Chris has been helping us here at Stella, and I had a client. Chris will tell you I have control issues. I say you can be controlling without it being an issue. But we were walking into this meeting. We flew down to San Angelo, and I said, okay, here's how it's going to go. It was myself, Chris, one of my salespeople, and my assistant. And I said, this is how it's going to go. We're going to sit down. I'm going to introduce y'all. I'm going to do this, and then this will be your cue. I've got it all lined out. And we sit down at the table. I introduce who Chris is, and my client instantly goes, so let me ask you a question. And then for the next 10 minutes, Chris takes over the meeting. It did not go the way that I said it was going to go. But by the end of that 10 minutes, this guy realized he had almost twice as much money to buy a jet as he thought he did.
I found some money.
Yeah, and it literally took 10 minutes. And that just came from one question, him listening, and then knowing where to implement his skills.
You introduced me very well, though. It wasn't locked. I mean, no, you set it up well.
Yeah. So I think you're really good at knowing knowing not only who you are, what you do, but like you said, that listening skill. And I want to ask you, for everyone in this room who are, all successful and varying degrees of success, as we move forward and try and make our money do the most for us. I say that I want to make money in my sleep, but I did not buy a car wash. I bought this private jet company, so that's clearly a lie. But for those of us who want our money to make more money for us and want to take the next steps in, our billionaire path, what advice would you give us? Other than reading your book, we got that already.
If you can find somebody who's more successful, more interested in your success than you are on your way.
If you want to invest in multifamily, you can find operators or sponsors. We call them general partners, operators, sponsors. People are going to use those words interchangeably. They don't actually mean the same thing, but for the purpose of this discussion, you can find any one of these people. You can be on their mailing list. So for example, if you wanted to invest with me, co-invest with me, then you could just go to my website. It's vivefunds.com. We have an investor portal. Most of us do at this point. You could be on 100 different sponsors lists. Vet the deal, vet the sponsor. You want to know who you're investing with, because I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of multifamily operators have gone belly up at this point in the market cycle. It's very common when we move from the bull run to the bear run. Multifamily is hurting right now. So there's a lot of operators that are going out of business and unfortunately aren't going to be around longer. Investors will get hurt from that. But studies also show that women actually make better investors than men. That's not me just saying, I'm not mad about it, but that's the data, not me saying that, because women get less than 2% of VC funding. And if you look at Black women in Silicon Valley, it is basically zero. So women are forced to do more with less money, and they outperform their male counterparts in almost every metric that any investor cares about. So vote with your dollars. Just start, even if it's something small, even if it's as small as looking at refinancing your home so that you can take that money and then invest. If it's something like investing in a Roth IRA or a 401k, there's so many different ways you can get started investing. There's an app that I use called Acorns. Have you guys heard of this? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've used Acorns before just to have a little account there that grows. I think it rounds up every time I make a purchase and 50 cents at a time. I make a lot of purchases, so it actually adds up quickly. But it's something that I started when my kids were born. I also started a Roth IRA for them when they were 2 years old. If you invest the maximum amount starting when they're 2 years old, and you invest the max amount at a 10% rate of return until 65 when they retire, that account would be worth $30 million. Yes, it's crazy because this is the time value of money. Now, if you wait, if you get 12%, so just 2% more, that same account will be worth $78 million. Okay. So you'd lose $50 million by just not getting that extra 2%. Then if you wait another 10 years to do that, that 78 million drops. Do you guys want to guess what it drops to? Drops to $25 million. You lose $50 million by waiting 10 years. Mm-hmm. So the time value of money is really important. That's why you have to start investing today, not 10 years from now.
That's great. I think, what you said about, men talk about money. Mm-hmm. There's, David Meltzer always says I paid a lot of idiot tax. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So what?
So have I.
Yeah. I think
I'm still paying some of them. Yeah.
Me too. And they all have names.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That
part. What would you say is a lesson in idiot tax that you paid that you like to share with other people so they don't make the same mistake?
The most painful one. Partners, get good partners. I have spent 7 figures on bad partnerships. Mm-hmm. When I say bad partnerships, I don't even mean someone who I think is a bad person. I mean, if I thought they were a bad person, I wouldn't have partnered with them. It's the people who seem great. And then you go into business, and this happens a lot when you first start in business. You're like, oh, but we're making money together and we're so excited and we're never going to hate each other. We're always going to feel like how we feel right now. It's like a marriage, right? Like you go in the honeymoon phase. But the practical reality of it, and this actually came from my husband, who's not really an entrepreneur, so it was very surprising advice from him. He said, babe, all partnerships come to an end. And I was like, really? Do you really think that, babe? He wasn't talking about marriage. He was talking about business partnerships. Because, I tell him there's only one way out of this marriage.
Right.
Or it can be of natural causes. But he said all partnerships come to an end. And it's really good advice. My attorneys have said this till they're blue in the face. And I'm like, yeah, this one's different. It's going to be fine. I did that way too many times. Mm-hmm. I paid a lot of money to find out that it is true. All partnerships eventually do come to an end. So when you're going into partnership, date the person first. Really get to know them. And, I have a friend, you might know Kayla Kraft. She's an incredible entrepreneur. And she always asks about what's your relationship like when she's partnering with someone. And I have a friend of mine who's actually a mentor. His name is Andreas. And when Andreas and Kayla were looking to work together, Kayla was like, how's your relationship with your wife? And I'm like, that's a weird question. Because I know Kayla is happily married to her husband. So this is weird. What is happening? And then she said to me, no, Veena, I want to know, because if there is trouble in that marriage, I'm going to be a therapist. I'm not going to be a business partner, and I'm not doing that. And I was like, wow, that's such a life hack. I wish I would have known that before I started partnering up with people. So it's always important to date the person, get to know them, make sure that there's a lot of moral alignment. And even if those things kind of check all those boxes, plan the divorce before you're out of the honeymoon phase.
And when you lost your business or your business, because the pandemic went down, what made you just roll right into, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to do it this way instead? Was it your passion behind it, or was it necessity, or was it something else completely?
I think it's everything. I think that I've never quit anything a day in my life. So I don't really understand how I could conceptually be okay with that. It's just as a human. When I was a kid, I tell this story, I've written it and I've told it a million times, but I think it's really impactful for a reason. My mom got a dictionary and she made me cut out the word can't, at 4. So, that leaves a mark. And that was just not an acceptable attitude in the house. You can figure it out. There's no reason you can't. That's just not reality. See that, because that's the thing, right? We all have our own lenses, and those lenses are made up of everything that has happened to us up until that point that we're looking through them. So it really is an example of what I was surrounded with, because that's what it goes back to. It's who you're around, what you eat, what you listen to, the music. I'm not exaggerating, it's everything. And if you're not consciously, auditing those things, I'm not talking about every 5 years, I'm talking about every 6 months, auditing the people that come in your life, the podcasts you listen to, the TV you watch, you are the sum of everything. So for me, the idea of quitting, that's never been in the DNA of who I am, whether that was when I was an athlete, before I joined the service, into the business, into anything. It's just no, it's a hard no. So part of the necessity side was I have a huge team. I had a team at the time they have mortgages. They're all women. What am I going to say? Oh, sorry. Right. I'm the Canadian government. Just forget your life. You don't need to worry about that. That's ridiculous. No. So I didn't support masks. So I did naturally what I didn't support. And I actually said, fine, we can play this game too. Got my medical license, and we started making masks for the government. So I was like, if you can't beat them, join them. So we made 200,000 masks for our local hospitals that were surgical masks, and we got enough money from that one order that held us over to that. And then we flipped our business and went online. We already had American partners. We already had Canadian partners. We work with all of these nonprofits, whether it's Boot Campaign or Heroic Hearts or Honor House or, Defenders of Freedom. These people rely on support. So it was about looking at, well, if Brass and Unity isn't working in retail, it can work online. How do we market it? Well, we market it through community, because we already donate 20% of the net. We already have partnerships with the organizations. Let's just start marketing to the community in a different way. And we took one of our main products and made it our suicide prevention tool. And we just rebranded the heck out of it, because you can have a business and you could have a whole bunch of different aspects, i.e. jewelry. Jewelry has a ton of different SKUs. You can do a lot of different partnerships with them. You can really use them not only as a tool for you, but as growth. So how could I use what I had? Well, I can start, going to these organizations, rebranding just the specific tool and really leaning into that. And we did that, and it took off again in a different way. And that's our buddy check bracelet. Amy knows about it. I gave her one as well. And those are important tools because they come in packs of 2. So you want to talk about a product that saves lives or does or has impact, buy a pack, call it Buddy Save a Life. So here's the thing that we do with that. If you're naive enough to think you can change the human race, it's because you actually can. That silly little bracelet has saved lives. It's a paracord rope bracelet. You can do and make sustained change in the world, but you, again, have to actually believe that you can and be willing enough to ask the hard question, do I have something already that I can pivot with, that I can move with, that I can shift with, and go? And then find really unique ways of marketing. Like, I know you understand marketing. I don't. I'll tell you how we market podcasts, period, from the start. All the media we've got, whether it's GMA, Carson Daly, Today Show, Fox, CNN, you name it, all because somebody heard me on a podcast. Like, straight up, that's it. Speaking gigs, universities, podcast. Coaching clients, podcast. Clips, recycling clips. These are all really important little things that you can do. But guess what? I've never spent $1 on marketing. My business has been in business since 2016. We've donated over $500,000. And we're a Canadian company that works with the largest nonprofit base in the globe. And we're a jewelry brand. So you can take what you have, you can remove what you thought it was. You just have to be willing to say, it's okay that it's not what it originally was, but what can it be as I evolve and as I change and as I move forward? And we're about to do that again with the podcast. It's been Brass and Unity for 4 years. Well, now I know what I really want it to be, and it's rebranding to the Kelsi Sheren perspective, because I didn't think I was worthy then, so I didn't put myself forward. But I know I know sure as hell I am now. So that's why I'm able to do that. That's why I'm able to change it. That's why I put my whole face on the cover and not a old military photo of me when I was 19. Because it's not who I am. It made me who I am, but it's not where I'm going. So we have to remove the idea that we are these things, this box that we put around our business or our podcast or our friends or our labels. Remove all of those boxes completely. Let those ideas kind of spur. You don't have to start new things all the time. That's why people fail constantly at things. You have to fail forward, sure. But instead of restarting and coming up with something else and spending a whole bunch of money on this, look at what you have and go, what can I do with what I have that's already established?
When I see a lot of videos from people like you and Ed Milet, all the people, a lot of times it comes off like I had this challenge early on, and now everything's been rosy since. I think it's important as people are going through their entrepreneurial journey for us to put out there, like, no, there's struggles sometimes every week, sometimes every day, sometimes once a month, but you always have challenges and overcome. What are challenges you face right now at your level on a regular basis that you have to overcome?
Okay. Every single morning that I wake up and I turn over that cell phone, I'm putting out fires every single day, especially because there's so many companies, there's so many moving parts. Live events, sports cards, social media influencers, acai bowls, restaurants, investments. There's so many different things that are happening. And with that comes a lot of people on every side of it. Vendors, clients, customers, attorneys, accountants. There's so many different moving parts and humans on every single side of each thing that every single day, I'm putting out fires, especially right in the morning. And so with that, the biggest problem to deal with is humans. Every single day, there's problems and situations amongst humans. The vendor didn't ship this thing on time. The client hasn't paid. The client said they're going to pay next week. Now there's a cash flow issue because you still have to pay. I got to pay the manufacturer for the thing that they're supposed to pay for. Hell, I have this event. This celebrity wants to get paid. Well, that's $100,000, but I haven't been paid on the tickets from Ticketmaster yet. Okay, can you wire in $100,000 and loan it to us for the week while we wait for Ticketmaster? Sure. 1 week goes by. Hey, Ticketmaster needs 30 days. We forgot, we didn't sign the contract, and so it's 30 days from now. Great. And so now that $100,000 is locked up, celebrity was paid, event happened, Ticketmaster's holding the capital. 30 days goes by, Ticketmaster's like, actually, we're just going to hold this as a reserve for your next event next year because we have a new policy. Boom, boom, like.
Wow.
And so it's every step of the way is dealing with people. It's putting out fires, situations. And the way I say it is staying calm in the chaos. I know there's going to be problems. If you know there's going to be problems, if you know there's going to be issues, you can stay a bit calmer when things are going awry. And it will allow you to think clearly. Again, the biggest problem in these situations is human emotion and ego. I go into each situation understanding how to deal with the human themselves to get the end result that I want that's also good for them. Mm-hmm. And too often people only try to do what's good for them. They don't realize if you don't do what's good for the other person on the other side, there's going to be problems.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. When we went to Roger's event in Miami, you and I pulled up at the same time, and the truck was out front, and the brakes were on fire. And I remember, we were like, well, at least, at least what like that one thing that was going to happen, that one challenge happened early in the day. It's over with, and the rest of it went great. So, yeah, I think that's great advice. You just have to expect that not everything's going to go perfect, and be ready to deal with it.
There's no such thing as perfect.
Yeah. You say that now, but when you have your baby girl in August, you're going to change. There will be such a thing as perfect.
when things scale, things break. It's just how it is. Anything that expands has friction. It breaks. No matter what you're doing, in anything in your life, when you scale it, things break. And so if you go in knowing that that's going to happen, and you go in knowing that this thing is going to break or expand, and there's going to be more hires, more employees, more vendors, more accountants, more lawyers, more this, more that, well, things break. And just going in understanding that and expecting it, it will take a lot off your shoulders, because if we go in thinking everything's going to be perfect, there's no such thing as perfect.
Yeah.
It's literally not possible, because things break as you scale.
What made you go from flying these smaller planes to being the first woman to fly a 747? And on top of that, share some of the challenges that you had with getting that title.
Okay. A lot of it did have to say, sure, I'll help you with that. And then the universe opening these doors and not hitting my head against the ones that kept closing that I thought I wanted, but kind of going with the flow. Mm-hmm. And man, things happen beautifully. I didn't know that at first, but I'd only been at TWA as a pilot, I think 6 months when we went out on strike. Mm-hmm. And let me back up. Actually, I was as a flight attendant. They went out on strike, and that's when I found the gentleman who helped me start taking the flying lessons. But at TWA, then I got furloughed, and the gal that I was had told I would help out by being a roommate with had a dad who told us about the Seaboard World was hiring, which was a cargo carrier. And I wanted that young man that I talked about 5 years earlier. Well, we were engaged at this point, and I was thinking I'd take the time off to spend some time with him. But I was trying to help him get hired at Seaboard. While he was being interviewed, I'm sitting in the waiting room talking to the secretary. So this is where the secretary, and she's asking me questions about being a pilot. And I said, "Oh, we're only going to be furloughed for 3 months. Furloughs always last a whole lot longer than that. So tell me what you've been flying." And she's taking notes. And she said, "Well, at least say hi to Captain Hirschberg before you go." So I follow her into the Captain Hirschberg's office, and he's sitting there, and there's a 747, a beautiful cargo 747 sitting on his desk. He reads everything that Alice, the secretary, had written, and said, "So how would you like to be the first woman to fly a 747? Wow. And for the first time in my life, instead of saying, "Yeah, I can help you with that," I said, I don't think women can do that. And I just ruined his whole scene. And I said, "Well, I've been at TWA for 7 years now as a flight attendant and a pilot, and all the guys agree, have told me as I progressed on, yeah, you can do that, but," and the last one is, "You're never going to be able to fly a heavy," which is the larger airplanes with 4 engines, because if 2 engines go out on one side, a woman's not going to have the strength to keep it going straight. And now you've got a safety issue, and you don't want to put people in danger, do you? No, sir. And he said, and I said, "So, they've explained it to me." And he said, "They've got hydraulics." the hydraulics keep it going straight. I'll show you. And he said, were any of these guys flying 747s when they were saying this? Well, no. We're going to have to speed this up. Okay. So he said, I'll show you. So he did. And he was the most wonderful. Yes, there's all these challenges, but along with that, there's these wonderful people. And when you're going into a man's world, you do have, some of those wonderful people do have to be men. And he took it upon himself to give me the confidence in me and that airplane that I needed to show him. And he kind of tricked me into showing that I could handle it when 2 engines went out on one side. And it was tough. I couldn't stand up. My leg was shaking. And I was pissed that he had put me in that position.
Let me ask you I think there's only one person in the room that's a pilot or somewhere around here.
Oh, okay.
Explain to everyone the physical, what was happening as you're trying to land this 747 for the first time and why they think women can't physically handle it.
Well, okay. First of all, this is being done in a simulator. I don't know that anybody has purposefully killed 2 engines
Hopefully not.
747 for training purpose. Well, maybe a long time ago, if they had simulators, they may have had to. I don't know how. You could probably explain it. Okay, so there's 4 engines, and most of this is in training. He's showing me this in a simulator, so it's not. But the simulators are so sophisticated that you've got the whole scene. It feels like it,
yeah, very
and
realistic.
It definitely has the real feel. So as you were taking off, 1 engine dies, which is normal. You have to show that you can take the most critical time to lose an engine is right on takeoff, because that's when they've got max power. So that one goes out. I'm ready for it. I know that that's what's going to happen. You know, I have to show that I can do this. So I get it all set up and we're fine. And now we're on downwind and I think we're going to land pretty soon. And the other engine goes out. And I'm sitting in the right seat. He's flying as my captain. And I kind of look at him, and he said, fly the damn airplane. Okay. So you trim it. You have to trim. Okay. Aerodynamics. How basic to get. An airplane flies because of airfoils. The wings are like this, so that the air going over the top has to travel faster than the air going underneath. So you've got more pressure underneath because the molecules of air are further apart over the top. So that's what causes the lift. The tail is equal, and you have rudders, and you push on the rudder, and it makes that airfoil go left or right. So if you push on, let me get this right. If you push on, so if you lose an engine, to make it go straight, you've got to shift this airfoil back here so that the air pushes on the tail to keep you going in the direction you want to go. So when one's out, yeah, you got a little bit, and then the next one goes out, and you've got a whole bunch that you have to push your foot almost to the floor to be able to activate the hydraulics that are causing that tail, the rudder, to move in the way you want, so that the nose goes in the way you want, so the whole rest of the airplane goes in the way you want. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So there.
I want you to tell that, because back then they thought a woman couldn't physically fly a 747 because you were too weak.
Yeah.
And so I wanted everyone to kind of understand that that's kind of what the concept was back then and why.
And it was tough, even with the trim. Well, let's see, I guess I didn't put enough in, because by the time we landed and my leg was shaking, he said, you did a good job, congratulations, but the next time use more trim. Okay. It's hydraulically actuated. Anyway, it's hydraulics. He was right. Seaboard became Flying Tigers. I got furloughed again. It's not a real stable career. So I don't want to talk anybody out of being pilot, but it's an incredible career, but yeah, stability's not there. And then a company called People Express was starting up in New Jersey. And so I went with them. They had 737s. I got hired at the very beginning. So I got to be a captain real quickly, got to be one of the first female captains in the country. We got 747s, so I got to be a 747 captain. and fly the first female to fly 747 transatlantic. Got to meet Princess Anne, was Woman of the Year in England, all kinds of amazing. Felt like Cinderella.
You know, where's your unfairness story? Like, what's the story that you tell that you may not tell everybody, but it's like, it was unfair. And it could have started when you were a kid. Like, childhood trauma is like a thing, and everybody knows it. But if you find out where your unfairness is, like, that was unfair that happened to me, or that was unfair, you'll find a place where scarcity is sitting. And then you'll find a place for an opening for more wealth to come in. Because people think more money comes in by doing more. Okay, yeah, but you want to keep it and have it grow. But find the place where it's actually in resistance, and then you're going to find a place where it comes in more. So find out your money stories. What story do you tell yourself? You know, there's a person that came into this room today. I'm not going to call her out, but she said she was sitting in the middle seat of the plane ride here. I looked at her and said, "Girl, why didn't you fly first class?" I'm like, "What's going on?" She goes, "Southwest doesn't have first class." I said, what are you flying Southwest for? What are we doing here? You get to fly first class, you know, and it's like, but sometimes we will limit our experiences because we think that's all we're allowed to have. But aren't you allowed to have all the experiences life has to offer? Just because? Yeah. Not because, and I am not, I wake up not at 5 a.m. I wake up when I'm done sleeping. And I start my day the way I feel it was intended to start. I get a lot done once the day starts, but I also don't put myself into a place of suffering anymore, because it just doesn't have to be that hard. Money gets to be easy. The way you do your work gets to be easy. How you create your life. And if it's not fun in what you're doing, like even down to social media, what you guys are learning here, my following, when people thought, like Stormy looked at my, she goes, "That's not 12 million? What's going on here?" She's like, you had 12 million energy. And I was like, I said, Stormy, I go, start my count again. I said, but listen, I show up authentically me. I wore a mask for decades because I didn't know it was safe to be myself. I didn't know it was safe to be who I was, because who I was got judged. Who I was wasn't who, like I didn't know who I was on that yoga mat. I didn't know I created a whole life that I was told I had to create in order to be validated, to be loved, because unworthiness drove me. And that's the thing about all of high achievers and high performers. Unworthiness is such a beautiful tool because we never feel good enough. We're always like more. You could do in like, you know, the most amount of weight in the gym, but it's like, it's still not good enough. I want to go here. And it's a great drive, but it only gets you to this limit because exhaustion will hit in. You know, not feeling good enough will hit in. You'll start negotiating really important things with your children. My children are number one in my life, and everybody who knows me knows that. I will not sacrifice any ounce of my life. But when you are here hustling, you are negotiating something, your sleep, your health. There's something that you're giving up that you don't want to give up because you haven't found that there can be a certain level of balance in what you want. Because money can only bring experiences in, but it cannot replace the things that, you know, your relationships and what you want to feel. And so I feel like when you can design the life of your dreams every single day, make the money you want to make the impact you want to make, all in hand. I mean, that really is the best thing. And when you show up authentically yourself, nobody can say anything to you. You really become, excuse my language, unfuckable with. Because you live in a level of power, like, I don't care, you can say what you want to me, but I know who I am, and I know what I'm doing, and like there's an integrity into it. There's a place inside of you that's like, I can go do anything without that little small, you know, your little person that was driving the car before, making all the decisions, your unhealed child in you, who's telling you not to go there, not to show up, not to do the video, not to do those things. She goes and sits in the back seat now, because now you can drive the car. Now you can go do the big visionary work that you came here to do. So that's why it's so important that we be ourselves. And I teach my children this, like the number one thing you have to do is be yourself. Like my daughter's 16 and knows what attachment styles are. I feel like I just scored as a mom. Okay. Like if you haven't read the book Attached yet, you know, you're missing out on a good self-development book, because your attachment to money, your attachment to your relationships, the way that you show up with your friendships, the clients that you come in, like one of the biggest things that I tell my clients to do, I'm like, why are you taking that client for? It's just because it's money, you don't take them. Like, the more you can say no to misaligned clients, the more money you're going to make. But when people are in scarcity, they're going to take everybody in because, well, it's just a client, right? It's like, but those become headache clients inside your business. They become the most draining people, even friendships that are like that, when you don't have good boundaries. When you're in this high achiever, this old way of the wounded masculine, you're going to accept people in your lives. You're going to have people that are just sucking you dry all the time, that you yourself will be like, putting their needs before yours. And if you learn and know that you create your reality with what you're thinking and feeling.
I think it was Jeff Bezos a couple months ago or years ago. he donated, it was 96 million. And everyone said, how can he not do 100? That was literally the headline.
It's just
4 million shy of 100. That was the headline.
Yeah.
He didn't want to round it up.
Yeah.
And those same people, I guarantee, probably don't even give back to their own community.
Yeah.
And so when you're doing good and you have these moments of, I don't want to post it, also think to yourself, what is the impact that has on sharing that in your own community of someone wanting to do that?
Yeah.
So with the Tidbit dinner, when we started that during the pandemic, as it may be, people started, it got so much bigger than us. It's not, people don't even know sometimes Jimmy, Rex, and Dan started that. Dan decided to take it to a whole new level, and we do $1,000 to show up for dinner. And we'll find out and do our background on families and say to ourselves, you know, we're not just randomly donating to a restaurant of half of it's going to the waiting staff, half of it's going to the, you know, the front office, these people and so forth. And I just say that because rooms like this, the reason I love it is, and the intimate experiences, you have meaningful, deep conversations that lead to meaningful and deep events that not only change your life, but will change other people's lives. And let it be $50 or $100. I think sometimes the small gestures will lead a long way, and it'll fill your heart and start to show up for you and serve for you way more than the money itself.
Yeah.
You know, me being able to travel and work for some of the best in the world, I've related to that so much when Chris referenced some of the wealthiest and richest people on the planet are actually the loneliest and darkest, and I could firsthand say that is a truth. That is a fact. That is not a movie. That is not a myth. That concept of the 10 cars, the 6 homes, that is real. These people that you think that are admired by hundreds and millions are typically the ones that are most lost and dark inside, that mask it with the material items, that mask it with the pictures and the photos and the filters and the events and the attention on me, but in reality, they're dying inside.
Yeah, and to bring that, you know, back to content is when you're doing these things, when I know a lot of you in here are you know, religious, no matter what God you serve a God. And for me, you know, I've prayed my whole life, like, God, let me be your hands, let me help someone, because so many people have helped me. And don't be afraid to let that be a part of your content, to let that be a part of your message if it's a part of your spirit and who you are. Because just like Dan inspired me to do it bigger, even though I was out here giving, I didn't even think about doing it bigger and including other people. And so as we do put that out on our content, we just encourage others, and especially the younger generations as well, to start doing those things too. So I encourage all of you, if that's who you are and part of your story, like, don't be afraid to let people know that. You know, sometimes I say a prayer and say, God, please don't let me be a bitch today. As we're going through our days, we're so busy and we're so focused. Yeah, everybody in this room knows how I feel. Like, we've got stuff to get done. There's just, we're on point, but take that time to slow down and you know, be the hands to a blessing.
I'm laughing.
He didn't know what he got into with me, did he?
No, you know, I've been here for a couple days now, and I've been so lucky that Tia has taken me in. And Sunday morning we were doing a prayer, and she literally said, "God, don't make me a B word today." And I'm like looking up, and I'm like, and she's so in it. I'm like, she's dead serious. Like,
I knew what mood I
was
woke up
like,
in,
oh
okay.
my God, okay, we're doing this. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.